Hello and welcome to this video tutorial. In this tutorial, we will provide you with an introduction to the Poverty Probability Index or the PPI, a simple and low-cost tool to estimate the proportion of your customers that are poor. In this video, we will cover the following topics. 1. What is the PPI? 2. How does it work? And 3. Why use it? Now, if you are a pro-poor organization, you'd want to ensure that your products and services are actually reaching the poor. But even in highly impoverished areas, there could be households that are relatively less poor living alongside households that are relatively more poor. So how can you objectively assess that you are reaching the customer households that you intended to and meeting your poverty outreach goals? The international community defines poverty in terms of poverty lines. These lines are typically defined in terms of the cost of consuming a basket of goods and services that meets the basic needs of a household. According to the World Bank, for example, more than 700 million people were below the extreme poverty line of $1.9 per person per day 2011 purchasing power parity in 2015. But how can you accurately determine if your customer household's consumption or income is below a particular poverty line? Collecting household income and expenditure data from the poor is complex. It is time-consuming, expensive, and requires special training. The poor often have small, unstable, and unpredictable incomes and expenses. They may rely on informal borrowing sources, in-kind payments, or engage in bartering. Your staff would have to spend a lot of time and effort with individual customer households asking about details of these daily minute transactions. Additionally, your customers may also not find it easy to answer too many complicated or sensitive questions or might simply not be willing to do so. But what if you could indirectly estimate if your customers are poor by looking at a few simple household characteristics which are strongly correlated to poverty in your country? This is precisely what the PPI allows you to do. PPIs are created by a transparent, expert-reviewed model that uses established statistical learning techniques to select a group of 10 indicators from a country's National Household Income and Expenditure Survey which are most strongly correlated to poverty in that country. You can then collect data on just these 10 indicators to obtain an accurate quantitative estimate of your organization's poverty outreach. PPI indicators are simple. They cover household characteristics such as demographics, asset ownership, food consumption, and dwelling characteristics. For example, a country's PPI could ask about sanitation facilities because not having access to these facilities is a strong indicator of poverty in that country. Or it could ask about access to electricity because having access to electricity in that country means that you are less likely to be poor. The PPI model uses the data on household indicators and poverty in the National Income and Expenditure Survey to convert the responses provided by a household to these 10 indicators to the probability or likelihood that the household is below the poverty line. That is, the probability that the household's per person per day consumption expenditure or income is below the poverty line. This probability is expressed in the form of a percentage. So, for example, you could say that this household has a 60% probability of being below the $1.9 per day 2011 purchasing power parity line. Once you've obtained the poverty likelihoods for a group of customer households, you can use this data to obtain the share or proportion of customer households that are below various poverty lines to assess how well you are reaching the poor. PPIs are calibrated to a country's national poverty lines, the 2005 and 2011 Purchasing Power Parity, International Poverty Lines, and Population Percentile Based Poverty Lines. We've thus simplified the process of poverty estimation, allowing you to use a quick 10-minute PPI survey to assess your poverty outreach instead of implementing complicated income and expenditure surveys, which can often run into several hours for each household. With the PPI, our goal has been to maintain a balance between accuracy and ease of use. The PPI is low cost and simple to implement. The process of converting survey data into PPI scores and further into poverty likelihoods is intuitive and easy for users to understand. PPI questions can easily be integrated into existing surveys or digitized, and PPI results are provided with reference to globally accepted national and international poverty lines, making them easy to understand, report, and compare. The PPI is thus a user-friendly tool. The PPI is a public good and made available free of cost for users. The PPI is today used by more than 600 organizations, including donors, investors, NGOs, social enterprises, governments, and corporations working across a range of sectors such as financial services, agriculture, health, livelihoods, and water and sanitation. We hope that you've enjoyed this video tutorial. If you have any questions, please email us at ppihelpdesk@povertyaction.org. Stay tuned for other video tutorials in this series where we will guide you through the process of collecting, analyzing, and interpreting PPI data. Thank you.